Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these pretty puff stitch flowers. They're really fun and fast to make, and I guarantee you'll want to make a bunch of them. You can do so many things with these flowers. You can crochet a stem and put them in a little potted plant. They look great as embellishments on tote bags, purses, hats, dresses. I think these would look so sweet on a little girl's bucket hat or sundress. They would also look great in the middle of little granny squares joined together to make a beautiful blanket. Many possibilities. You can use any yarn and crochet hook that you like. I'm using Red Heart's Super Saver medium 4-weight yarn for this project and a 4.5mm crochet hook. You need very little yarn to crochet these flowers, so it's a great way to use up your scrap yarn. So grab your supplies and let's have some fun crocheting. Start with a slip knot and chain 4. Slip stitch to the first chain to form the ring. We're going to be working all of our flower petals into this small ring. Chain 3, this will act as our first half double crochet and chain 1. Half double crochet into the center of the ring. Chain 1. We're going to repeat that 10 more times. Half double crochet, chain 1 into the center of the ring. At the end of the round, you should have a total of 12 half double crochets and 12 chain 1 spaces. It does get a little tight, so just pull your stitches to give yourself some room to finish the round. It's a good idea to check and make sure that you have a total of 12 half double crochet stitches and 12 chain 1 spaces before you continue to the next round. Because our chain 3 acts as the first half double crochet in chain 1, we're going to slip stitch into the second chain to join our round. I like to go under both loops of the chain, but you don't have to. If you can just get your hook under one of the loops, that's perfectly fine. We're going to make the petals of our flower using the cluster stitch. If you've watched my last video, you should be familiar with the cluster stitch, but I will go through it again for this video. I'll also leave a link to my cluster stitch video in the description box below. Start round 2 by chaining 4. We're going to work into the next chain 1 space. Your chain 4 should be right over that first half double crochet. Each petal is worked over 2 chain 1 spaces. So we start the cluster stitch by yarning over, insert your hook into the chain 1 space, yarn over and pull up a loop and pull it up tall enough to reach the height of a regular double crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops, leaving the stitch unfinished. Yarn over, insert your hook back into the same chain 1 space, Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Do it again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. One more time, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You should have 5 loops on your hook. This is the first part of our petal. To work the second part of our petal, we go over to the next chain 1 space. So skip the half double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain 1 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Repeat that 3 more times. You'll have 4 unfinished double crochet stitches in each chain 1 space. You should have 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops on your hook. Chain 4. We need to secure the petal to the center of our flower. So we work into that same chain 1 space and do a slip stitch. That completes the first petal. To do the second petal, we'll chain 4 again. Find our next chain 1 space and work a cluster stitch into that next chain 1 space. 4 unfinished double crochet stitches pulled up tall. You should have 5 loops on your hook. That completes the first half of the petal. Now go to your next chain 1 space to finish the second half of the petal. Work 4 more unfinished double crochet stitches. You should have 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops. It does help if you turn your crochet hook so it's facing down. That helps it to not catch on other stitches. Chain 4. Anchor the petal by doing a slip stitch in the same chain 1 space. Chain 4 to start your next petal. Find your next chain 1 space, skipping that half double crochet, and work your cluster stitch. 4 unfinished double crochets in that same chain 1 space. You should have 5 loops on your hook. We're ready to move over to the next chain 1 space to finish our petal. Work 4 more unfinished double crochet stitches. You should have 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops. Chain 4. Secure the petal of the flower to our previous round by doing a slip stitch in the same chain 1 space. Chain 4. Start the first part of the petal in the next chain 1 space. Work 4 unfinished double crochet stitches. You should have 5 loops on your hook. Work 4 more unfinished double crochet stitches in the next chain 1 space. You'll have 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops. Chain 4. Slip stitch in the same chain 1 space to secure the petal. Chain 4. Start the next petal by putting 4 unfinished double crochet stitches in the next chain 1 space. You should have 5 loops on your hook. Go to the next chain 1 space to finish the petal. Work 4 unfinished double crochet stitches in the next chain 1 space. When you have 9 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 9 loops. Chain 4. Secure the petal by slip stitching into the same chain 1 space. That completes the last petal. You should have a total of 6 petals. Chain 1, cut the yarn and finish off. If you plan to sew your flowers onto something else, make sure that you leave the tails long enough to do so. I'm going to cut the tails very short for this example. You can also use Fabri-Tac to attach the flowers to something else rather than sewing. Pull the yarn through and pull it tight to secure it. I want to tie the 2 tails together, so I'm going to pull that starting tail through to the back of the flower. To get the finishing tail closer to the first tail, I'm just going to pull that through the back side of a few loops and pull it toward the center. Secure the tails by doing a knot or a double knot. Use your finger to push each of the cluster stitches forward. That completes the petals of our flower. Now I'll show you a couple of different ways to do the center of the flower. For the first option, we'll make a small circle out of single crochet stitches. Start with a magic ring. Chain 1. Make 6 single crochets into the ring and pull the ring tight. We'll be working in continuous rounds, so it's helpful to use a stitch marker to indicate the first stitch. For round 2, we'll do 6 increased stitches, so 2 single crochets in each stitch of the round. At the end of the round, you should have 12 stitches. We'll do one more round. For round 3, you'll just do one single crochet in each stitch of the round. You'll still have a total of 12 stitches at the end of the round. Make sure that the center of your flower is the right size to cover the inside of the petals. You can always do additional increase rounds if you need to. Using a button as the center of a flower gives it a fun, whimsical look. You could also cut a pom-pom in half and use that as the center. Fasten off the flower center. Leave yourself a long enough tail if you want to use that to sew to the petals of the flower. For this example, I'm going to cut a separate strand of yarn to sew it to the petals. I'm going to tie my tails together, so I just move the last tail to the back of the flower and do a double knot to secure the ends together. I trim the tail short and start with a new piece of yarn about 12 inches long. I thread that onto a yarn needle, and going from the back of the flower behind a few stitches, I'm just going to tie a knot to secure it. Push the needle to the front of the flower. I don't want the stitching to show, so I'm going to insert my needle beneath both top loops of the stitch, coming from the back to the front, and then going down in the next stitch below the two top loops from front to back. Pick up a few stitches from the petals of the flower and repeat that for the remaining stitches. Coming from back to front of one stitch and going down from front to back in the next. Make sure that you don't completely stitch all the way around so that you can add some polyfill just to give the center of the flower a little puff look. Adding polyfill is completely optional, but I think it just gives the flower a little more dimension. Secure the yarn in the back by making a double knot. Now I'll show you how to use the puff stitch to make the center of the flower. Start with a slip knot. Chain 4. Make chain 5 a little looser, so I just pull up on the hook and make the loop a little longer. Chain 2 more regularly. Working into that longer stitch, we're going to do a puff stitch, but we're making a puff stitch much bigger than we did for the petals. The size of the center puff is completely up to you, but I'll be doing 11 unfinished double crochet stitches into that loose chain. Don't forget to pull up your stitches nice and tall. It does get a little crowded on your crochet hook. Once I have 12 loops on my hook, I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 12 loops. Chain 1 to secure the puff. Push the puff from the back to the front. Chain 1 and fasten off your yarn. I pulled the yarn through and I'm just going to tie the two tails together. You could use the tails to sew the center onto the petals, but I prefer to use Fabri-Tac glue. So I'm cutting my tails short and I'm just going to secure them together with a double knot. Pull the tails of the center of the flower to the back of the petals right through that center hole. I'm going to be using Fabri-Tac glue on two sides of the flower to secure it to the petals. And that's all there is to making this adorable puff stitch flower. I hope you enjoyed this project. They're a really fun and fast project that you can use in so many different ways. Let me know in the comments what you plan to make with these adorable puff stitch flowers. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.